Hey Charlie, welcome to the BlockHash podcast. Super happy to have you on. How you doing?
Great. I'm doing pretty good, all things considered. Thanks, Brandon. It's nice to be
Yeah,
here.
it's great to have you. I know we kind of already talked about where you're from, but where are you from?
So my roots are in Lafayette, Louisiana, South Louisiana, but I've been based in Berlin for the last decade about now. I moved here even before I joined crypto, and now I work here in crypto, and it's a great place to be for the industry for sure.
How long have you been in Berlin?
I moved here in 2013, so it's been quite a while.
Yeah, that is a while. How do you feel Berlin is in regards to, crypto and blockchain? Like, is there quite a community there? Do people find it very interesting, or are there a lot of startups coming out of there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say within a stone's throw from where we are. So Interchain Foundation is based out of Berlin. We have almost 15 people here in Berlin, but just down the street is Ethereum Foundation. We have lunch with them pretty regularly. Also Web3 Foundation. There are also a lot of startups kind of in various ecosystems, all based out of Berlin. So I think as an ecosystem or as a community, it's a really rich place to be, just to talk to different people and cross pollinate. And yeah, it's really great to be here for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Has Germany been very favorable in terms of allowing you guys to just kind of innovate and not get in the way?
Yeah, I would say if anything, the German regulation has, like I think Germans are notoriously sticklers about the regulation, and in that case, it's been at least on the positive side, it's been quite explicit. So there have been draft judicial decisions, for example, which have been released on the classification of staking rewards versus, the sale of crypto assets, or like I think like it's generally been, as far as I can see, favorable towards crypto innovation. And I think that's also a large part of the reason why there are so many of the companies based here. I also think that culturally speaking, Germany has a very strong tradition of people who are interested on working with the decentralized technologies. So from both sides, I would say, from cultural and also from political or regulatory. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the best developers and engineers have always come out of Germany too. So I guess it's kind of not a surprising thing to see a lot of them migrate or kind of, come to Berlin or, come out of Berlin in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely.
But Charlie, tell me more about your background overall. Like, how did you find yourself wanting to be in this space? Was there anything about it that really interests you that kind of drew you into crypto and blockchain? What's your story like?
So I have a fairly unconventional tech background, I would say. I didn't study computer science. I studied law, actually. I studied political science out of undergrad. And initially, I had taken my LSATs in the States. So I went to Northwestern for my undergrad. And after graduating, I had originally registered to start my JD at NYU. But I was actually, frankly speaking, looking at the price tag, and just the thought of kind of committing to that amount of time and that amount of money was something that really made me take a second, just have a few second thoughts, or at least just want to confirm that that's what I wanted to do. I was really interested in open source law at the time. And so I found kind of a way to hack that in the sense that I found a 1-year LLM, and that was in Munich. This was through, it was also co-sponsored by George Washington University. So there was an American kind of JD support for it, but it was a legal master's in intellectual property. And a lot of it was very practical training. So I thought, okay, well, this seems like a good 1-year commitment, much less expensive, a way to just verify that I really wanted to go this direction. Ended up getting a job after the LLM. My plan was never to stay in Germany, but I ended up getting a job working as legal counsel for Intel, whose European headquarters are based out of Munich. It's also where the European Patent Office is. And yeah, so I ended up working there. Halfway through my contract, realized that I didn't actually love the day-to-day of being a lawyer. I loved the subject matter. In a lot of ways, I still work with the subject matter in another way, but I just really, I found myself doing a lot of paperwork for engineers who I thought were doing really cool things. So I decided that I wanted to learn how to code. And in between, it took me a while actually to start working as an engineer. That's what I've been doing for the past few years. But I had a few years where I was working a lot of odd jobs, mostly working with my hands, actually building installations, but also learning how to code. And yeah, in that community, and also through my experiences, I found myself interested in crypto initially from a political aspect. I was really interested in, as someone who kind of lived and traveled around the world a lot, obviously like the initial problem, which is how everything started, I think, of cross-border payments and how to, send money back to the States without paying exorbitant. This was like before TransferWise even. So just like paying fees all the time. It was something that I was initially just practically and politically interested in. And over time, I became more and more interested in tech, just like how we can actually build infrastructure that allows for these multinational systems to coexist and kind of flourish. So whenever I got a chance to start my first job, I really tried hard to get into the crypto scene. And luckily I was in Berlin, and luckily I did. And it's kind of just been a wild ride ever since, I guess.
Yeah, how was that transition from a lawyer to engineer? I don't imagine that was necessarily easy.
There are a lot of similarities I think people don't necessarily realize in at least the logical reasoning aspect. I find a lot of the training, like systems training in particular, whenever you are trained in law, like you basically are given huge quantities of information, you kind of have to synthesize and digest in a very systematic way. And I think obviously like that helped me learn how to code, but also I think it does help me in the position I work in now, which is as a product owner of IBC at Interchain Foundation. I think like being able to synthesize systems across the ecosystem is something, or is a skill set that I really see use out of like every single day in my job. And so I think like that for crypto is particularly useful because a lot of things are being developed at the moment, and particularly at an ecosystem level, which is something that IBC protocol does have to happen across. So.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, the practical training of learning how to code, I would say everyone who wants to learn how to do it really should get into it. I think it's much more daunting looking than it actually is. It's really just step by step.
Yeah, I imagine being a lawyer is a stressful career path to go down anyways. At least, learning to code and becoming a dev or an engineer, you get to be a part of something a little bit exciting. So probably maybe a little less stressful and maybe a little bit more fulfilling of a career, huh?
Yeah, I'd say the level of really engaging conversation I have in my day to day is not that I want to bash on any lawyers out there, but just in my own experience, it's been a great choice for me.
Yeah, I bet it's a lot of fun. So how did you end up, coming to work with the Interchain Foundation? How did that kind of weave around?
So prior to Interchain, I was working on a DeFi project, which was based in the Ethereum ecosystem, and it's called Centrifuge. They do tokenized assets, supply chain assets, and they also have actually a Substrate sidechain. And I was there for the first 2 years. I was part of the first engineering team. And through being in the Ethereum ecosystem, I actually met Billy Rennekamp. He's on the board of management right now at the ICF. And we kind of just knew each other from the space. We had talked at the same meetups. We saw each other pretty regularly at different events. And so when this kind of position opened up, he approached me and asked if I might be interested. And I think at the time I had been working as an engineer already for some years, and I was interested in something that was first a little bit lower level than the DeFi application layer that I was working on at the moment. And I was also interested in getting a little bit more ecosystem level. And so IBC was something that hit all of those baskets. It was something that I also feel like really does have a lot of potential. And it's something that is not, it's not really, it doesn't, like in my head, it doesn't really have a cap to the growth potential. It's something that is so generic, but at the same time, it solves a use case that really is very pertinent for every single blockchain out there, not only in the Cosmos ecosystem, and not only in layer one. And so I think it was just something that was really exciting for me. I was really happy when Billy came to me.
What would you say the mission is for the Interchain Foundation? Like what direction are they trying to go?
Yeah, so I would say it is a great question, because the history of the Interchain Foundation has been, relatively over the last 2 years, it's gone through a lot of changes. So I would say the primary mission of the Interchain Foundation has always been to steward the technologies which are foundational to the Cosmos ecosystem. So that's the SDK, Tendermint consensus engine, and IBC protocol. And that's really our focus. And I guess technically I'm hired by Interchain GmbH, which is like the German company for Interchain Foundation. But those teams, so Tendermint consensus engine, the IBC protocol team, and obviously the Cosmos Hub team actually are all my colleagues, and we're all stewarded by the Interchain Foundation.
Yeah, what are some of the things that you guys at the Interchain Foundation are working on for Cosmos? You mentioned a couple of them, or is it mostly the SDK stuff and the few things you mentioned, or are there other things you guys are working on?
So at the moment, the entirety of the IBC core team and the Tendermint consensus core team are under the Interchain Foundation, as well as the Cosmos Hub engineering core team. And so I would say the Cosmos Hub engineering core team there have been core contributors from all across the ecosystem, but now we are starting to build in-house a team which is primarily responsible for implementing all of the governance proposals that come through the hub.
Okay. Is Interchain primarily responsible for helping develop these things out for Cosmos, or is there other groups as well?
So we do have external contributors, obviously. Ethan Frey from Confio, Zach Mannion from Inclusion, Jack Zamplin from Simile. I don't want to leave anyone out, but there have been very many individuals who have been extremely helpful in all of these efforts. And of course, at the end of the day, it is a decentralized ecosystem. But I would say, if you want to talk like who is maintaining the repo or who is responsible for merging the PRs, that would be our teams.
Got it. So let's talk about Cosmos for a second. Why Cosmos? What's the benefit of using Cosmos, over another more mainstream blockchain? This has got a lot of attention over the years, like Ethereum, for example, or a new and up and coming one like Solana. What does Cosmos offer that's different for developers and people that want to build things on it from some of those players?
So I would say one of the primary advantages is that the Cosmos SDK is very easy to start with. So it kind of allows you to very easily bootstrap and deploy a sovereign chain from the get-go. And so that means that you don't have to interact with an existing, you don't have to first, get a certain amount of an existing token and you figure out that whole system of how you keep people on-ramped into your ecosystem. You can really just develop your own token, your own chain, completely sovereign. But at the same time, you can use IBC to connect that chain into the larger Cosmos ecosystem and receive most of the benefits that come with being part of the ecosystem: liquidity, access to products, access to features, etc. So I think we really tried from the very beginning. The Cosmos thesis was always about chain sovereignty and the interchain world. And I don't think that thesis has changed since 2016 when Ethan and Jay first came up with it. And so I think walking that fine line of allowing people the freedom and independence to do what they want to do, while offering them the benefits of being able to engage with others who want to build with them, is something that, we strive to achieve.
What kind of things are being built on Cosmos? Or would you guys, or not you guys, but I guess anyone that builds on Cosmos, people, focusing on the most?
Honestly, there have been so many different subject matters that are covered. I think DeFi always makes headlines because TVL and, people like being able to field farm, etc. But I think if you talk just about DeFi, there are a lot of exciting developments. As you probably know, Terra just joined the IBC ecosystem. And that has been a huge, it's been a really huge event because UST is the first decentralized stablecoin in the ecosystem. There was a centralized stablecoin which joined the IBC ecosystem about 2 weeks ago, another Cosmos project called eMoney. But I think having the presence of both decentralized and centralized stablecoins and the obviously tons of DeFi protocols available on Terra, Injective, Simile, Osmosis, all of these other Cosmos chains are something that make the DeFi ecosystem, at least in Cosmos, extremely exciting. I think one interesting thing which makes Cosmos DeFi a little bit different from DeFi and other ecosystems is that because of the architecture of Cosmos and IBC, you don't need to have all of the financial primitives or all of the kind of logic happening on one chain. Because you can have part of it happening on one and part of it happening on another. So what I mean specifically is something like the DeFi use case of Injective and Band Protocol, and these are two Cosmos projects. Injective is a DeFi protocol, but it doesn't necessarily have on its team, they don't have the capacity / they don't maybe want to develop or use their resources towards something like finding pricing for DeFi assets. And so what they've done is taken an IBC Oracle data module developed by Band Protocol and used their IBC connection with Band Protocol, which is strictly an Oracle data chain. And they use Band Protocol for their DeFi asset pricing. So you can really see kind of like how it's a little bit similar, but I would say more powerful than how the smart contract system works in ETH, where you have one contract calling another contract. You have certain logic flows or primitive that are deconstructed across different contracts, and everything is quite modular, and you can interact with everything in a very granular way. I would say you can do this in Cosmos, but in a more powerful way because you're not interacting just one contract to contract. You're really interacting like one chain ecosystem to another chain ecosystem in still the kind of same modular and granular way. So I think the space for architecting new primitives that can exist in an interchain system is extremely big, and it's going to be something that's going to be really exciting to watch as it unfolds over the next few years.
What's your favorite project that is being developed in the Cosmos ecosystem, or do you have one? Or one that excites you the most?
Part of me doesn't really want to say because as Interchain Foundation, I feel like I need to be like diplomatically neutral. Okay. What I can say though is that I think there are both existing and upcoming projects that are really exciting. I would say one of the upcoming projects that is really exciting for me is Simile. They do liquidity pools, and they have a very interesting set of curated pools. And on the existing projects, obviously Terra is, one of the biggest contenders. I think they have a huge potential for growth. I think one of the dark, maybe like less DeFi-oriented projects, which I think also has great impact, is Regen Network. So they do carbon credits on chain and allow people to basically buy these assets and across their portfolios. And I think this is something that is not often seen as much in crypto headlines because it's maybe not as flashy as DeFi, but I think it's really telling that in the ecosystem, there is also huge growth in projects like this, as opposed to, just yield farming, et cetera.
Got it. One more question I want to ask you before we kind of start wrapping it up. What's it been like for you, as a female dev or engineer in this space? Whether it's, in Berlin and Germany or just overall working on the ecosystem and at Interchain and just within blockchain. I get a lot of mixed opinions from a lot of women that end up coming on the podcast or the friends of mine or that I know on their experiences in crypto and blockchain. It's a very welcoming community, but I've also noticed a lot of women not maybe doing as much as they, or maybe not getting highlighted as much, I guess. Do you feel like women in crypto kind of get that spotlight enough and get what's the word? Get recognized for how much they're actually contributing, or what do you kind of feel, or have you ever experienced that at all?
It's a complicated topic.
It is.
Yeah, I would have to say that I myself personally, in any of the teams I've ever worked with, I've been lucky enough to never experience that in my own team. And I would actually have to highlight that all of the engineers and even non-engineers I've worked with have always been extraordinarily egalitarian. And I would say that's probably the word that I would like to strive for in my larger ecosystem, where I definitely would have to agree with your friends that I have definitely experienced situations where I thought to myself after, well, if I wasn't a woman, that probably wouldn't have happened to me. But I think that it can be tricky to walk that balance. I think that on the one hand, giving someone credit or acknowledgement in a situation where they may otherwise be overlooked is very important. But on the other hand, I do think that sometimes there's a feeling that that if you're a woman, you almost don't have expectations set for you very high. It would almost be the feeling that someone would say, "Oh, that's pretty good for a woman," or something like this. Like, if you, especially as an engineer, I think that if you onboard and people just don't expect you to know as much or to be able to produce as fast or as quickly, or I think that's almost just as bad as not being recognized. Like, it's pretty demoralizing, I would say. So, but it's a tricky balance. I guess we're all in the process of trying to sort it out together.
Yeah, I guess so. I mostly asked because in November we're trying to do a more female-centric lineup for the month, because I always have on men and I don't know why, and I always get referred men, and I'm just like, why am I not getting referred women? So we're doing trying to have as many women on as possible in November to try and balance it out.
Yeah, it's a tricky
Where
job.
the women go?
It's statistically speaking, I think your chances of getting a man are just much higher.
Yeah, maybe. I think so.
But I think I know several really great women in the industry. So if you're looking for contacts, I can
me
drop
too.
a line after this.
Oh yeah, if you know anyone, absolutely let me know. Would love to take recommendations. Anyways, Charlie, thank you for taking the time to come on the show and really explain what you guys are doing with the Interchain Foundation, your thoughts on the Cosmos ecosystem, what's being developed there. It's very exciting. I know a lot of people that are building on top of it and using it. Really good conversation. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brandon. Take
Cool.
care.
Yeah, have a great day and talk to you in the future.